right, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Louder. All right, how about now? Any better? More? They must have mic tested with someone that speaks more loudly than I do. All right, how about now? Is that better? Can you guys hear? Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming out this evening. My name is Cassie Wondersea, and I'm a public information officer here with the Rocky Mountain Incident Management Team on the Wapiti fire. So we're so thankful that you guys were able to make it tonight. We have way more people here than we expected, so I'm so sorry that you guys are having to stand outside there in the driveway. We'll make sure you get all your questions answered. There are a few more seats up here in the front. If anybody does want to come in and grab a seat, I can see 5 or 6 available. If anybody wants to pop up, feel free to walk on down. So we have several folks that are going to provide a short presentation and briefing to you tonight. And as you guys saw as you were coming in, there's some tables set up outside. So all of the speakers you hear from will be available to answer your questions. We've got maps out there. We can talk through what's going on in the fire. We can figure out where your homes or your properties are at and really visit with you guys about what's been going on and the planned actions over the next couple days. So we'll start off, we'll have a current situation from some of our operations folks, starting off with Cody Rose, who's been working as our division supervisor over here on the west side of the fire. And then we'll also hear from Dan Dallas, the incident commander, who's going to be able to provide us a briefing for the east side of the fire. We're going to have some outlook for our weather and air quality from Amber Ortega and Katie Sacheray. Tried to butcher that, Katie, sorry. The Sheriff Turner from Boise County is also here as well. He's not going to speak, but he'll be available to answer some questions. Then we also have Randy Pipel here from the Idaho Department of Insurance, who's going to be able to provide an update and give you guys some information on homeowner resources. They've also let me know they've got a bunch of handouts and information for y'all to take with you. Then we will hear again from Dan, I think, as the incident commander, kind of close us out. And then we'll have, like I said, the tables outside, that open house format. You guys will be able to walk around, ask questions, and visit with all the folks here tonight. So thank you again so much for coming out, and we'll get started with Cody.
All right, good evening. My name's Cody Rose. I'm a division group supervisor with Rocky Mountain Team 1. We're pretty much working on the 21 corridor on the west side of the fire. So some of the current situation, what we got going on is where the fire had already went through some of the, like, Sawtooth Lodge, Wapiti summer homes. I have crews in there that are taking and continue to mop up, making sure nothing's smoking, no more threat to some of those structures in there. Also in Hanging Valley, we have crews in there that are working around the structures in there, firing up the pumps, making sure the sprinklers all work. As you move down 21 into 10X and 2 Ravens, some of that area, we have crews in there that are assessing structures. We're also doing some thinning around the structures. We're looking at putting a proposed dozer line back behind both of those those subdivisions in there. So if the fire does get in there, it gives us a better chance of protecting them. We're going to be plumbing. If you live in there, you'll see guys putting pumps, sprinklers, and kind of plumbing around each one of the structures. So if the fire does get in there, we can fire those pumps up and bring the moisture up around those houses. We're also assessing some of the other areas like Sourdough. We're looking at what structures we have in there. We're also, the local Forest Service resources, a couple of the crews have been helping us do some cutting work, like on the 8 Mile road. They've cut out that. We're going to be doing some chipping on 8 Mile. And then also on the 10 Mile road, one of the other crews has been in there, so we'll be doing some chipping. So it's kind of what's going on this side.
Thanks, Cody. Bill, I'll hand you these if you could. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Dallas. I'm the incident commander for Rocky Mountain Incident Management Team 1, but I'll give you the update. Cody's kind of busy. I was actually surprised to see him here, but highway's closed right up at Banner Summit right now because of fire activity. So I'll talk to you about the east side of the fire and your neighbors over in Stanley. And I'll do a little pointing here, but when we got here, took over the fire on Saturday, briefed in, came through on Friday night. The fire was back a little ways from Highway 21 and then we had a kind of a moderate weather day on Saturday and Sunday, and then yesterday it forced our hand a little bit with the warmer, drier weather. It was a little warmer than forecasted and a lot drier. So the fire, as soon as the inversion lifted about 2 o'clock, it quickly became apparent what we were planning to do today wasn't necessary, that we do it yesterday afternoon and into the nights. Fire quickly kind of took off, started advancing towards Stanley and the subdivisions on Highway 21 just outside of Stanley, about a quarter to half a mile. And so we put in a line of retardant up Iron Creek Road here, and then turned the corner and went on the other side of Highway 21. The purpose of that was to try and prevent spots across the line. And then last night about 1800, 6 o'clock, we started burning out to get around all those subdivisions on Highway 21 and then turn the corner towards Stanley. That was successful. Burned till about 3 o'clock in the morning. And then same thing when we woke up this morning, perfectly clear, not a cloud in the sky. And normally you like those kind of fall bluebird day type things. Not today. So clear skies, smoke vented out. There wasn't any smoke except for the plume of smoke from the night before that was going out this way. Things heated up just right away. So what's going on over there now is they continued the line out towards the Sawtooth Wilderness. But of note, we got a spot. This is where the fire came right to the road night before last. It spotted across and now is kind of heading to the north of Stanley. It's off the map here, but the sheriff, Custer County Sheriff, is evacuating. There's some scattered homes next to the river, a subdivision down there, and some ranches and stuff. So that's being evacuated as we speak. Or not evacuated, I'm sorry. Let me be really clear. He's put it in ready status. So that's kind of what's going on over in there. People are absolutely familiar with, Cape Horn, the Boy Scout camp, all this up here. So working to try and get some containment features up in here and up in here, so we can stop the kind of the northeast advance. And then on Wednesday, because of a passing cold front, and we've got all this open line, we expect the wind to come from the northwest. So things are a little dynamic over on that side right now. So that's what I know.
Thanks, Dan. And I need to work on reading my notes a little more closely. We've got a few more folks here, too. We've got Tyga Rohrer, who's coming over from the Middle Fork Complex fires to give you guys an update on that. He's the deputy incident commander on that fire over there.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Do you have our fire on there? Because I need something to point at. This helps me keep on track. So I am the Deputy Incident Commander with Great Basin Team 3. We took the Middle Fork Complex, which is the Bulldog and Nellie fires, over on Friday morning. And what we've got going on is, similar to what Dan said, we had a little bit of lull with the weather. Got a couple sprinkles, or as they say, 12 inches of rain, 12 inches between raindrops. But we got some humidity, and we thought we'd have a chance to come in and get in front of this fire where they hadn't had the opportunity, because we've got some really rough country here to the east of Garden Valley and Crouch. So Just going around the horn here on the Bulldog Fire. They've had that pretty much held to the road and keeping up with it as it's tried to progress north. We've got some indirect hand line that we've been putting in the last few days to get away from the road, so we're not up here in the Silver Plunge area. I'm sure you're familiar with. And then as we come down, we've got line that comes back in here to the Rattlesnake Creek drainage. Really rough country. We're trying to piece that together and tie that in with the Nelly Fire. Most of the stuff off to the east is not progressing very fast because of this, I believe, is the Rattlesnake Fire Scar. And then on down here, where we've been having our hands full along the 17 corridors. Some of you may have seen coming through. As it's come down the road, we're trying to get around all the structures. So we've had crews in there and dozers prepping it and doing a little burn around behind them and defensive. But with that weather, we were given the opportunity to come in and put in a piece of indirect line down the ridge above Danskin Creek, and we got that in. It took us a day while it was raining to get a dozer back in there, but we got the dozer back in there and we brought it down all the way to the highway. And then we had a piece in here that if you look at really good at the map, we're calling it the Spaghetti Bowl because there's a bunch of roads in there, and trying to piece that together. It is really rough country, so putting in hand line, dozer line, and then what we've done along this line is also supported it with a lot of retardant, and you see some of the birds flying this afternoon. We're doing the same thing up here in that Spaghetti Bowl country. So this is all uphill, and what we were hoping to do was get that line fired off to make it solid, but the predicted weather didn't last, or the drier weather came in faster than predicted. So we've got to tie that up, and then hopefully we can bring that down and completely shut off the westward movement down towards the river corridor, get that 17 back together and open, and then up here tie that into the Bobcat Fire. Now, as I'm sure you're all interested in what's going on here to the east, well, you have a big fuel break that came through with the Pioneer Fire in 2016, as I'm sure you're familiar. And even with the red flag winds we had last week and the week before, it's pushed into the edge and it just doesn't want to go in. It's falling a couple stringers. There's some heat. We've been flying that daily with drones so that we can look in there for infrared, see what we need to do. But we're not taking action on this east side as of yet because the fire scar is holding that up. And that's another piece of wicked country. But yeah, we definitely want to make sure that it doesn't get down here in that remaining timber there along the Deadwood River, as you guys are probably familiar with as well. Then up here, Deadwood Reservoir is another focus that we've had. And, that's been pushing us. It pushed us hard the other day. But we've been getting dozers and crews in there, and actually we've got shot crews in there, and we're getting or have received a military strike team. Came off fire up there by Cascade. And we got scoopers that as soon as we got some clean air in that Deadwood Reservoir country, we've been able to use scoopers, and they've been making hay. The one day we dropped about 250,000 gallons of water on that edge of the fire. So right now, as I heard, that stood up and is making a run to the east into the Pioneer and the Bearskin fire scar. So, and that's actually, as long as we can keep it from going too far north, we're hoping that we can let that thing run into there. That gives us a nice solid edge, and we can hopefully follow that up direct and pin that. So, for the folks along, here in the Lowman corridor and down Lowman, that's you've got a big fuel break here. That's even though we're only like 4 air miles from basically an intersection down here of 21 and 17. You got a good buffer in there, and we're keeping an eye on that. And I'll be around for questions afterwards.
Great, thank you. So now we're going to hear from Amber Ortega for our weather.
So I am not the IMET, so you can't blame me for your weather being off, but I do have a degree in meteorology, and I work really closely with the IMET. So the IMET briefed me on this, and I sit with the IMETs at ICP. So again, I can't really go into too much depth, but I'll help you out here. We are going to get a cold front tonight, right around midnight to 2. You'll see some gusty winds at that time. Because we're going to get that wind tonight, it means we're not going to get a deep inversion. We're not going to get our relative humidities coming up at night. So we won't get those recoveries that we usually see. That's tonight. Tomorrow is going to be a near critical fire weather condition day, especially from 2 to 7 p.m. We're kind of in that same zone right now before the frontal passage. Once the front gets here, we're going to get winds more out of our northwest. It's a little bit of a different wind direction than what we got today. And we're going to have sustained winds around 10 miles an hour with gusts up to 20. So they will be some gusty winds tomorrow. And Thursday, we get even drier conditions. So the IMET here colored by a lighter orange color Thursday through Sunday because we get increasingly dry over those times of day. We're going to again get winds out of the northwest. It'll go westerly, and we'll get some more of that westerly northwest push on the Wapiti fire until it switches out of the southwest. Any watch out conditions? He is a little worried next week. It looks like we have another prefrontal passage happening. So today and the winds we were experiencing, some of the stuff Dan mentioned, we'll be getting similar conditions on Monday. So you wanted me to highlight the potential for more gusty winds Monday. And as you guys know, as we get warmer and drier, those fuels are ready to go. So the persistent warm and dry conditions over and over create those near critical fire weather conditions. I'm going to hand it off now to Katie Sachery, who is our ARA trainee, and she'll be talking about smoke and air quality impacts from these conditions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. ARAs, we're colloquially known as the smoke folks. So we're here to tell you about how smoke is going to be impacting the Lowman community specifically. On Monday evening, Amber and I were able to set up a regulatory grade smoke monitor at the Lowman Ranger Station just down the hill. So we're able to get real-time, high-quality air quality data for this community specifically. That's why we're here. We're here to serve the public. Oh wow, we have our smoke outlook. That's great. So these values that you're seeing here on the Lowman line are real. They're from here. A lot of the smoke that we are experiencing here in Lowman is actually coming from the Nellie and the Bulldog fires. That smoke pools in the Garden Valley, and then as the inversion lifts and we start to mix out down there, that smoke gets pushed up here. So you're seeing the majority of your smoke impact during the daytime hours. And then once that inversion lifts out, that smoke goes with it. One important thing to know about smoke is that the impact for you personally is cumulative. So imagine you have dirt and you haven't swept the floor, and the longer that you let that dirt accumulate, the dirtier your house is going to be. So the more often, or the easier it is to stop the dirt from entering your house, the cleaner your house will be. So if you want to speak to Amber and I, we have tips on how to keep your lungs as clean as possible. Thank you.
All right, Randy with the Idaho Department of Insurance.
Hello, good evening. My name is Randy Pipel. I'm the Bureau Chief of Consumer Services for the Idaho Department of Insurance. I'll be brief because no one wants to talk insurance until they need it. But if you have had property loss, part of what my team does is we answer questions about your insurance. We also regulate the insurance companies, and so if you're having issues with communication, getting them to contact you, or they're dragging their feet or whatever, please give us a call and we can nudge them along and get them moving. For those of you that are in the evacuation areas, the set and go or ready, set, go, I want to talk a little bit about what you need from an insurance standpoint to take with you. Make sure you've got contact information for the insurance company, for your agent with you. Make sure you have all of your insurance policies, not just the home policy. You may have toys that are on a different policy or whatever. So you make sure you've got all those policies or you have access to them. We're all carrying cell phones. Most insurance companies now have apps that you can access all that information on the apps. Make sure you know the passwords and your username to get into those. For those of you that do have a little time, if you can do some of the fire-wise, pull brush and furniture away from the home, that type of stuff always helps. These guys will tell you that it does make a difference if you've got some clear space around your home. So other than that, I do have a bunch of brochures, and if you have any questions about insurance or anything we've talked about, please let me know.
All right, and now we will hear from Tracy Emberly, who's our agency representation from the Boise National Forest.
Thank you, Cassie. Well, good evening. It's good to see all of you. A lot of you know me. I was the district ranger here up until about 5 weeks ago, and I had just left and taken a job on the Wallowa Whitman. Broke my heart to see what was happening, as far as fires impacting a community that and a resource that I dearly love and care about. My heart's still here. And, last Friday morning, Brenda, who's the lead PIO with Dan's team, called me and she said, "Are you still the ranger in Lowman?" And I said, "No, what can I do for you?" And she said, "What do they need in Lowman? Our team is coming." And I said, "I'll tell you what they need. They need some focused attention that deals with the impacts they're facing right now, because they've got fires on all three sides of them." And she, by golly, stepped up and ordered PIOs for here to stay here, made sure this meeting was organized, made sure maps were inclusive, made sure the updates included information about Lowman, so that you guys wouldn't feel like all the attention's on Stanley and Garden Valley and we're in here going, wait, we're being pinched. So as the fact that I see all of you here, it validates the fact that you still really crave that information and need to know what's impacting you and your community. The other piece that's really hard is, I told you at our community meeting that we had in June that we had a signed decision in the Grand Jean area, and we were laying out timber sales and we were doing fuels treatments. We had all this stuff ready to go after years of trying to get that done. And it's the second thing that breaks a ranger's heart. The first, of course, would be if somebody were injured or killed in an accident, or trying to fight a fire, and, because nothing we have out there is worth somebody's life, public or a firefighter. But the second thing that breaks our heart is when we've poured a lot of love and thought, and our staff has worked really, really hard to get work done, to get timber sales laid out, to get all that taken care of, and then fire does it for us. On the plus side, we'll be set and ready for, that's probably bad words to use when it's compared to evacuations, but we will be prepared for a salvage sale to happen rather quickly. Brant can talk a little bit more about that maybe, or address the process there. As most of you remember, that was quite the big effort with the Pioneer Fire, but we've got a lot of timber out there, and we're going to take care of that. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you was your level 2 evacuations last night that happened with 10 Axe and 2 Ravens and 7 Peaks. That was largely due that, that fire spotted into an area We thought it had spotted up into Kasner Creek. And if it's in that drainage, nighttime, your flow is down slope, down canyon, that drainage runs right back towards 21, kind of towards homes. And after what we had seen the previous Saturday out at Grand Jean with downslope impact to those homes, we certainly wanted to give you plenty of time to get your stuff and go. The fire didn't move quite as far as we thought it had, but you guys are ready now, right? You're on set. So you have your cars loaded, you've got your important papers, you've got your prescriptions, you've got your insurance information, you've got all that stuff ready to go, that irreplaceable antique of your grandmother's or your photo albums, those type of things that you can't replace. Make sure those are ready to go, because I guarantee you, if it's an immediate evacuation, you won't remember to take the things that make sense. I remember on a fire I was on years ago, a friend of mine's house burned, and her daughter-in-law's house burned, and her daughter-in-law grabbed a 24-pack of toilet paper from Costco and left her grandmother's quilt and their family photo album sitting right there. Your brain just can't process if you're not prepared. And that's why we give you those 3 levels. When you're at ready, you're making that list, you're preparing, you're doing some of that cleanup around your yard, you're making sure you're ready. When you're set, your car's pretty well loaded, it's facing out the driveway, and that way if you get the call, you can just orderly go and it's not a panic, right? Because you're prepared. And so that's why I wanted to give you that amount of time, and I really appreciate Sheriff Turner and Paul and all of those who got out there and got the word out last night. I will be around to answer questions as well, but I wanted to introduce the Boise Forest Supervisor, Brant Peterson, to talk about some of the other stuff we have going on.
Thank you, Tracy. And she covered a little bit about what I wanted to talk to as far as evacuations, but I do want to provide maybe just a little bit of a higher level view of what's gone on since July 23rd, so a month and a half. We had fires that started July 23rd on the Boise and on the Payette and on the Sawtooth. And we ended up with 44 fires that started. Not all of them obviously grew large, but a lot of them did. And that was followed up by another round of fire on August 8th. And I'll tell you, I was the ranger at Idaho City for about 10 years and been the forest supervisor here for 2 years now. Feels a lot longer right now, but for a couple of years. And I've never had such a busy summer, even through Pioneer, even through Bearskin, some of these large fire events that many in this room had lived through. This is as busy as we've been. And it's been a really trying summer for, I think, all of you, of course, and a lot of the folks that do this work. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't say, right now there's, I think, somewhere around 2,200, maybe 2,400, because they're still coming in, individuals, young men and women from this community and from Idaho City, friends of mine that are out on the fire line. And I really appreciate what we do as teams, and that's primarily who we interact with and who the community interacts with. But I just want to say those folks are out there right now. They're out there tomorrow and yesterday in the heat. They're doing the really hard work that often sometimes gets overlooked. And the reason is you don't see them. They're up in the hills and they're doing that work. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all of them and the work that they're putting in today for this community, for Garden Valley, for Cascade, for Idaho City, for all of us that live here in this and love this part of the Southwest Idaho. So I'd want to say thanks to them. And then just another piece I can't reiterate enough, and Tracy did a great job talking about this, but we talk a lot about the evacuations, and we're careful and we're thoughtful, and we work closely with Scott Turner, the sheriff, but I just can't reiterate enough to think about in advance what it is that you would take. And it's really important, and Tracy told the story. I've seen people carry Diet Coke out of their house because in those moments it's hard to remember what's important to you because it's a tenuous time. So think about that. Spend time, and you're here tonight, so get your information up. And I asked the team, when they get here, of course, first and foremost, look out for firefighter safety and our public safety. And that's first and foremost. Everything else comes second, but a close second to that. And I really applaud Dan Dallas's Team 1, Brent Waters' Team 3, the Great Basin team that's down in Garden Valley. The second thing we ask them is to stay in contact with you, stay in contact with the communities, hold these meetings, and continue to hold these meetings as long as the fires go. And when nobody shows up, we'll quit. And that's really what we ask these teams to do: manage that risk, inform the communities, and make sure that you know what we know as soon as we know it. And I really appreciate the work that these guys have done. They've left their from all over the country. They've left their homes, their wives, their kids, their dogs, all of that, to come here and help these communities and to help protect our forest. So thank you, Dan, and the Tiger, the group that's here from Great Basin Team 3. And I'll be here afterwards if there's any specific questions. I'm glad to keep talking after this. But thank you for coming tonight, and we'll keep you informed. Thank you.
So hello again, everybody. Again, Dan Dallas. I'm the incident commander for the Rocky Mountain Incident Management Team. We've had the Wapiti fire. And just a couple things to share. First of all, I've known Amber for a while now. I can kind of do this and probably get away with it, but I always laugh at the incident meteorologists and the weather people, because I'm standing in the street yesterday with the mayor of Stanley, and the weather forecast said near critical conditions, and I'm reasonably tall, and I'm looking like this at this smoke plume that is capped out. Capped out is our euphemism for, it looks like a mushroom up in the stratosphere. And I said, well, I hate to see what critical looks like, Anyway, just wanted you to know, and I'm going to introduce somebody here in a second, but our team has taken it to heart. Tracy, we've all known Tracy for a while. She actually has worked with us a number of times. And she told the story about Brenda, our PAO, but we wanted to make sure that we were putting in as strong a presence here as we were there. One of the things that's been kind of a problem, there's an old comedy routine where somebody keeps saying, I know. So we've been ordering things like potable water and caterers and stuff like that to try and build a robust camp down here across the way. And those people fill the orders, and then they call us and say, well, the highway's closed, we can't get there. And I'm like, we know, it's like, but we'll make sure you get through. So there's been a certain amount of that going on. But like when we were standing there right before this meeting started, I said, yay, there's a potable water truck finally. And so we're building up. And as I think it was Tyga mentioned, because of the kind of the concentration of fires, the 44 fires, what a nightmare. For the three forests with all the lightning, but we're able, because of activity reducing elsewhere in the nation, we're able to pretty much get most of the resources we need. It's just a matter of getting them here. So when I left this morning or last night, we had 620 people, and I anticipate by the time I get back to Stanley tonight that we'll have doubled that, and a good part of them are coming up here. So anyway, and there's probably some feeling that, kind of like Tracy said, kind of left out. No, it was a matter of kind of getting geared up. We knew all along that we had to have a strong presence up here. So anyway, couple more days, 2 or 3 more days of weather like this, which, originally I'm from Idaho, and you name a town, I either lived in it when I was a kid or I played basketball against it. It's not unusual for you to have snow on Labor Day, but I don't think that's happening this year. So you got a little more of the smoke and the having people like us doing the hustle and bustle around for a while. So we're here until we either time out and another team comes, or something happens with the weather. But I got my doubts. We're not seeing that right now. So anyway, thanks, folks. You've been very welcoming. We appreciate it. We're here to help you. There's a number of people stationed here. In fact, I basically have a whole nother staff, like a whole nother command general staff. And so one of the things we did when we knew that, you know, there was time, distance, closed highways, all that kind of stuff, and we knew we had to staff up strong here in the corridor, is I asked a friend of mine, one of my deputies, I used to work for him. He's retired. Now he works for me once in a while. But your incident commander here on site is Bill Honenberg. Bill, you want to stand up or you want to say a couple words?
Sure, I'll be working out of the fire station here and available if you want to come in and say hello or visit. And taking guidance from the fire chief. He seems to know a whole lot of what's going on around here with wildland fire. So it's good to be here. Thank you.
All right, well, that'll conclude our presentation portion for the evening. Like Dan mentioned, we will have all of the folks that you heard from outside tonight. There's tables and some handouts available. And one thing I do want to say is just a big thank you to Chief Paul and all of the volunteers here. They have graciously opened up the department here, let us host this public meeting. We've had folks working out of here. I know they've been working their tails off with the evacuations and keeping everybody informed and just, you know, responding to things as they normally would along with the large fires in the area. So thank you, Paul and Ray and Dylan. Those are a few of the guys that I've met so far as we've been out working information. So they've done a wonderful job and just so appreciative of everything they've helped us with as we've gotten set up here in camp. So y'all are welcome to go ahead and head on back out the engine bay and we can grab some of these guys for questions, and we'll actually might let these guys get out of here first so they can go grab their tables and not get stuck. Thank you.